this computer. So welcome everyone to our Empathy Cafe and our topic today is how do we build an empathy movement? I'm Edwin Rutsch, Director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, and been working for about 14 years on creating a more empathic society. So we do have a lot of different projects that we do. One of them is holding these weekly empathy cafes. These are intro cafes for people to learn and practice the empathy circle practice, which I find is the best gateway practice. It's very simple to use and easy to learn and easy to implement. And we're also going to we'll be doing a participant introduction. So I'll go around and hear from each of you to where you're from, why you're interested in taking part here today. And also we'll give a review of the training that we have. We have a training coming up, and then we'll go into just doing an empathy circle. And then we'll have some time to debrief, and we go for about 2 hours for this. So to begin with, we can get started with just doing introductions. So I'll name, location, why you're interested in being here. So as I mentioned, Edwin Rutsch, I'm here in the San Francisco Bay Area, just north of Berkeley. And I'm here because I just want to make a more empathic world and society. And this is part of that effort to teach and practice this empathic listening process. So Larry, would you like to go next and then call on the individuals, go around and call on everyone?
Yeah, I'm Larry in Florida, a retired occupational therapist. I just love empathy circles. I think it's kind of the missing link, empathy, the missing link to human beings actually being able to hear one another and live peacefully with one another without having to throw stones or nuclear weapons. So, Bill, would you share, please?
Sure. My name is Bill Filler. I'm a retired special education teacher. I dealt with children in crisis and very challenging conditions where I found that reflective listening was key to them forming a relationship and then also changing their lives for the better. And then I found this process after I retired, unfortunately. But I found that this is a very efficient way to do that. I'm looking to bring them to schools. Yeah, I'm excited to see everyone here and participate. Thanks, Larry.
And Carla, would you introduce yourself, please?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carla Stokes. I'm in the Long Beach area, Southern Cal, and I am the Restorative Justice and Social Emotional teacher at my site for K-8 in Long Beach Unified School District. And my focus this year has been the middle schoolers, those in-betweeners. And so I'm always looking for new ways, programs, processes, and strategies to enhance their social and emotional learning, but also just that human factor. Unfortunately, my kids feel like they are not heard. So I think this is a great opportunity to put some structure, a little bit of structure in a different way of them actually being heard and being able to also give back their those feelings and emotions. And so a nice space to create. So I'm really thankful to be here and looking forward to getting to know all of you. And I will pass it on now to Kathy.
Hi, thank you, Carla. Kathy, I'm from Houston, Texas, and I originally came because I was looking for something to bring to the Peace Alliance, and I stayed because of the community that has been built around these circles, and because I want to continue to grow my own empathy and my own listening skills. So thank you.
And Melanie, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm going to go inside for just a little bit because it's not very private out here. I don't want to disturb my neighbors. Anyway, maybe I'll try to figure out. Anyway, I am here. I've been feeling really depressed, and and thinking I need some connection. So I'm hoping that maybe that'll help. And I've been involved in empathy for more than 30 years. So it is a love of mine. I think that's it.
Thank you, Melanie. And Ben, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Ben Gilberti. I live in Connecticut, West Hartford, Connecticut. Michael Santa and I are from an organization called the Prosperos, and we're investigating the empathy circles as an adjunct or an assistance or an improvement on our experience and our community in the Prosperos. Prosperos is the School of Ontology, the science of being.
Thank you, Ben. And Jen, who's right next to Ben on my screen, has the name Jen. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Jen, and I'm in Austin, Texas. This is my second time attending, and I am a huge proponent for communication and advancing oneself. So I fell in love with the first session, and I'm here again, and hopefully some of the people that I've invited will be joining too. Thanks.
Thank you, Jen. And Linda J., would you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Linda. I'm from Northern California. I've attended maybe 6, 7 of these empathy circles. I like them because I can utilize what I learn in other aspects of my life and with other groups I'm in. And it's just very informative, and I always walk away feeling much better than when I first came in.
Thank you, Linda. And Priyanka, I hope I said that right. Would you introduce yourself, please?
You did say it right. Hi, everybody. I'm Priyanka. I'm from Bangalore, and I took an empathy facilitator training a few months ago, and I noticed my empathy skills getting very rusty when I caught myself advising someone who just needed empathy. And I was very concerned by that, and so I'm here again. I think it's not enough to just take the training, and you have to practice it regularly, and I've been ignoring that. So it's so great to see all of you again.
Thank you, Priyanka. And Jen Moran, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen, and I am in San Francisco. I'm interested in attending today because I just love empathy circles. I've done the training a couple times, and I love connecting with people who are interested in empathy for themselves and for the world.
Thank you, Jen. And Jana, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm in Queens, New York, and I love empathy circles. So I came. I've been gone for a few weeks, so here I am.
Thank you, Jana. And Anna, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, I'm Anna. I am in the New York, upstate New York area. I'm mostly an interfaith minister, but I'm here to create community, just to enjoy community of empathy.
Thank you, Anna. And Angela, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi, I am Angela. I am on Pawtucket land, also known as Somerville, Massachusetts, USA. And I'm here out of curiosity. I was invited, and I have a long time meditation practice and do other things that are certainly resonate with working on empathy. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you. And Valerie, would you introduce yourself, please?
She was connecting. I don't know, Valerie,
Okay.
if you could do intro. Yeah, I think you're connected now.
Hi, everybody. So sorry about that. I am just getting my camera started. So I'm just gonna do my intro. So I'm Valerie. I'm from New Westminster in BC in Canada. And I'm here to participate in empathy because it enriches my soul. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. If I left anyone out, please wave your hand. So I don't want to leave anyone out ever. So I think it's back to Edwin.
Okay, there was two Jens. There's a Jen Moran and a Jen. Is that
Yep.
is that the same connection or is that a different person?
Different person.
Okay, okay, great. Well, thanks for those introductions. And so next we want to one of our projects is empathy training, and Bill's going to be reviewing that. I'm putting the link into it, and Bill's going to, and the link to the signing up for the training.
Right.
So Bill's going to be sharing all that.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and have it. And there's all my personal information. Please don't hack me. And so here is the training, that the link you can go to right now. That's a cohort, happy campers. And so what we do is the training is, hold on, I'm gonna take that. Okay, so it's 5 sessions. They're 2.5 hours each. There's also a buddy call that we have each week for about half an hour to an hour. And then also, if you want to do any circles outside, that would also enhance your training. This is a very detailed video that takes you through the training. And what we're trying to do is to get everybody in the world to learn this particular listening system or program. Empathy circle. What is it? Empathy circle. We'll leave it at that. And this is a way to learn it and also to facilitate it. It's open source so that you can use it. Some of the people who have introduced it talked about incorporating into other, philosophies or, trainings and stuff like that. That's fine. Just again, give credit back to this training, knowledge where you learned this particular part of it. And it's very basic as far as it's not meant to be in competition with other trainings. But it really is a very good foundation. Once people go through the empathy circle, and you'll experience it today, there's a certain community feeling, and that's a great place, like a foundation to launch from. It's a sliding scale. It's for $0 to $300. If you would like, I think that I've taken a lot of people who are professionals, have taken a lot of trainings. This is really a quality training. And I've heard that from several people, and you can decide for yourself. If you're interested in the training, there's a 2 empathy circle prerequisite. You've done half of it if you're here today. So this is what you're at now, the Empathy Circle Training Introduction Cafe. Please, if you do commit, please come to all of the trainings. Everybody who is there is doing this by volunteer, and we have it set up. And so when people, step in, step out, it can cause commitments. I understand, problems, sorry. I understand that, people have commitments and other things like that happens. We can handle that. But the more, things that, people who sign up can take it, the better the training and everything, and the easier it is for us unpaid volunteers. So each cohort is part of a series. It repeats on Mondays or Saturdays. We've just finished in the early, the late spring, a Monday cohort. We're going to be doing the next one about this time, well, exactly on this time, August 6th. On Saturdays, and then we go to another Monday about 5 or 6 weeks after the ending of that cohort. So you can take it several times. Many people have to build up your skills. We do give certificates of completion if you attend all the sessions. This doesn't mean that we have not, that as of this time, having, credits, college credits, but certainly, it'll indicate that you've completed the training. Here's the sign up here. Right now, the sign up is for Saturday, August 6th. That will be the first one in this Zoom room. And if you're interested, you sign up and then you click on this. And I think that's it. Larry and Edwin, anything else you'd like to say?
I would just add that the training, you take it the first time when you're as a participant, and then you take it the second, third, fourth, and fifth time as a trainee. So you're actually you learn how to to become a trainer. And after the fifth time, you become a trainer of it. And so it's and then you can actually hold your own CAF trainings as well. So we want to get as many people familiar with the practice to actually train others, so we can really kind of spread it. Yeah.
I'd just like to mention the website is bestempathytraining.com.
And
So
I
it's-
did put the link into the chat too. So, and then there's a sign up in the chat as
Thank
well.
you.
So we hope you'll sign up, and if you've taken the training before, join us as a trainee too. Okay, then next we want to just go through the process of how to take part in an empathy circle. I don't know, is there anyone that wants to, who's done the training, that would like to explain it? I don't know, Kathy or Jen or someone. You're up for it, Kathy? You're muted, and I did put the instructions there too, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the empathy circle consists of 4 roles. First is, of course, the speaker, and then there is the active listener. And then everybody else in the circle are silent listeners. It's still an active role because we're giving our full presence and attention to the speaker. So the speaker speaks about either the topic or whatever's alive in them, and speaks in, speaks 1 or 2 ideas. You don't want to go on for a long time, because then the person that will reflect back to you, who's the active listener, might get lost in what you've said. And the active listener can repeat back what they've heard and use the same words. You don't have to get all fancy, like if you're practiced in nonviolent communication, you don't have to guess, what they're feeling or anything like that. Just what they've said so that they can feel heard. The person speaking, it's your responsibility to feel heard. So if you feel like they didn't get what you said, you can say it again, that's not what I said, this is what I'm saying. And so we also are timed, and when the time is up, we'll hold up something to let you know time is up. We'll also ask you to pause if you're speaking for too long and we think the active listener might have difficulty reflecting back what you've said, because that enables you to feel fully heard. So 4 roles: the speaker, the active listener, everyone else is silent listeners, and then the facilitator will do the timing and hold up the stop sign when it's time to stop, or that sign, yeah. When it's time to stop, if you're speaking, go ahead and finish your thought, and you'll still get a reflection. And if the person, if the time is up and the person is reflecting, the person can finish that reflection. So the purpose is for the speaker to be listened to, and for those who are doing the listening to really learn how to listen and help a speaker to feel heard when you reflect back what's being said. And for everybody else in the circle to also be fully present, just as the active listener is, in order to be able to reflect. So we're learning how to listen, we're learning how to have ourselves be heard, and how to be fully present with everybody in the circle. Anybody want to add anything to that?
I would just add that as a listener, you can always ask the speaker to pause. Say, oh, just pause so I can reflect back. Sometimes the speaker will go on and on and say, yeah, I'll never remember all of that. Yeah. But the best way is just to get into the circles and do it. And you'll just sort of see how it works. And, learning by doing is kind of the best way. Plus, there's the link there for the one-page PDF. So, yeah. So, okay, then I'm going to put our topic in. So our topic is how might we build the empathy movement or whatever's alive for you. So you can talk about anything. I heard some people say they were feeling kind of depressed. You can talk about feeling depressed or just anything that's on your mind and pressing. And so we're going to have 3 circles. The first one, Bill, can you facilitate that? We'll be here in the main room. The second one, Kathy, does that work as a facilitator? That'll be room 2. And then Larry, room 3. Does that work for you to facilitate? So we're going to go for about an hour and 15 minutes in the circle. Then we'll come back and debrief it as a full group. And I'll send a notice shortly before we come back. So we're going to, without further ado, going to create the rooms and see you in the breakout rooms. Okay, this is it, Bill. And I think Anna was going to move to room 2, but it hasn't moved yet. So we'll see.
Okay.
There's 5 of us here.
Okay. So just a few. Welcome. The topic is there. I have. I'll be keeping the time. I have this timer, and when the time is up, you'll hear a little piano riff. If you don't see that, I have this very expensive handcrafted sign here that will kind of end you. And remember, you don't have to cut yourself off, finish your thought, and then get a last reflection, and then we'll move on. Oh, there we go. Okay, great. So Ben, Carla. Let's see. So I invite actually Ben and Carla to be the first speakers. I'll volunteer to be the first listener. Or you could choose Edwin, either way in this particular case. And then we'll just get started. So.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good. So let me apologize now. I have an African gray parrot in the background.
Oh, so, yeah. Good.
So hopefully he's going to be quiet during my speaking.
That's okay. I love the African grays.
Oh, good. Okay.
Good.
So how might we build the empathy movement?
Mm-hmm.
My first thoughts are starting really young, especially I think because my grounding is in education, but I do feel that this can be, I mean, my wheels are turning, but this could be used right away, even as early as kindergarten, those developmental years, elementary school, all the way through to infinity when it comes to age. But I do believe that in order for the movement to build, to start the process young, I think we need more exposure to this. I'm thinking in education that there are so many people that have not been exposed to this or who have heard it. So if we can implement it into schools, I think that would be wonderful. Also, the community aspect, pulling our parents. Again, as an educator, many times we know that children model what they see, and parents and caregivers and guardians, they need, I think, this tool to use, not only at school, speaking with key stakeholders in education, but also in their homes. I think this would be a wonderful tool and to build the empathy movement. So those are my thoughts thus far.
Okay, great. So you were talking about, this practice and how important it is for people of all ages, and specifically looking at school. In other words, in order to make a real difference, you have to get people, and you said people need more exposure to it, and it's experiential. And you would start in kindergarten to infinity. In other words, any age can benefit from this particular, enhancing it's like exercise. You don't do one sit up and say, oh, I know how to do that. And so you're looking to see how that might then be implemented, both in schools, but also community groups and other areas. Did I miss anything there, Carla?
No, I think you
Okay.
said it very well.
You have, you've only used 2.5 minutes of your 5 minutes, so you have more if you want to, you don't have to.
No, I think I'm fine right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, great. All right, so I'll talk to Priyanka. Are you ready to listen, Priyanka? Okay, so first of all, I want to ask Carla to marry me. Okay. You can reflect that.
Bill, I heard you say that you want Carla to marry you.
That's right. No, I seriously speaking, but I really closely identified to everything that Carla said. For almost 40 years, I dealt with severely emotionally disturbed kids who were, in danger of going to prison or being removed from their family homes. And I worked very hard to try to give them a shot. And I was good at my job, working in a great team. I'll stop there.
So what Carla said really resonated with you, because you also worked for 40 years in a school with kids that had severe emotional problems, who were some of them on their way to prison or being taken away from their families. And you worked very hard, and you also had a great team to support you.
Right. And what I see in all of the school shootings and all of the other problems, I dealt with a lot of students who fit the profile of a lot of those school shooters. We had no school shootings. I'll stop there.
So when you read about the profiles of school shooters, you realize that you have dealt with a lot of them, and there were no shootings in your school.
Right. And that's because I believe that we were constantly communicating with our students. We were aware of what was going on. If there was a weapon brought, we would talk with their families about it. And so that constant involvement kept them engaged with our program, and I think preempted any kind of, there were violent acts, but not deadly violent acts. I'll stop there.
Yeah, so you said that the reason why there were no shootings in your school or any deadly violent acts were because you were constantly communicating with them, and that you made that effort to do that. And there were violent acts, but not deadly ones.
Right. And I know that from what I saw and from my experience also being in, public education, there are literally millions and millions of kids who need this, who aren't being heard, who are just adrift. And they're never going to hire enough counselors. They're never going to hire, they're never going to really do that. And so therefore, this process lets kids listen to each other once they learn to it. And that adds another aspect rather than just having a counselor. It means that kids provide the experience of being listened to other kids, which is a tremendous self-esteem builder. I'll stop there.
This process of empathy circles helps kids to develop self-esteem. They give that gift of being listened to other kids. And schools can never hire enough counselors. And it also gives them the option to be listened to by other kids.
Yeah. And as in a school, though, there are certain parameters that, for instance, you're not going to have kindergartners sitting for 2 hours listening to each other. And then there are a lot of other, curriculum, imperatives that teachers have to deal with. but I've developed various ways to break down the circle process and introduce it step by step, and then can be used and ongoing in as little as 10 or 15 minutes a day. And it would make a profound difference, I believe. And I'll stop there. And that's my time.
Yeah, so you understand that teachers have a lot of, there are a lot of parameters that are difficult with this process, but you've developed steps where you, even with as little as 10-15 minutes, this process can be introduced in school.
Thank you, Priyanka. I feel fully heard.
Thank you, Bill. Edwin, would you be willing to listen to me?
Yep, listening.
So I'm an educator myself, but I teach in higher education here in India. And it's a little different from the US because, you know, there's a big hierarchical distance between teachers and like between professors and students in India. And the culture is also very different. And I noticed that my students are sort of reticent in sharing things with me when they're facing some difficulty in learning or because of that power distance.
Okay, so I'm hearing that you're also so in education and higher education, and it's in India. In India, there's a real sort of a power difference between teachers and students, and because of that, your students are kind of hesitant to really talk to you about personal issues.
Yeah, or even if they're having a difficulty grasping some concept or something that they don't understand, it's very difficult for them to approach.
So it's not only just personal issues, but even if they're having difficulties in what they're studying. So in general, it's difficult for them to talk to you.
Yeah, and there's a lot of fear also, like because of me, but I think there's a lot of fear of punishment because the Indian education system works like that. Like there's always this reward punishment sort of model where if you do what I say, you'll be rewarded. You're a good, obedient child. And if you don't, you'll get punished.
So the system there is very punishment reward oriented. If you do what we say, you get rewarded. If you don't, you're going to be punished. And maybe that creates fear in the students.
And so what we are creating are submissive people, and those people who are succeed in being submissive and like obedient in apostrophe, they are the ones that succeed through the education system.
So the education system is really training people to be a certain way so that the ones that are obedient are the ones that succeed.
Yeah, and I'm trying to, I mean, just 2 days ago, I had my class doing empathy circles in groups of 4. And it was the first time that I could do this because Corona is kind of, because earlier it was all online, and it was the first time I did it in a physical classroom. And I was so excited. And it was so, I took photographs also of the kids taking part in the circles, and they were so absorbed. And, you know, when they first walked in, you could see that they were like low on energy and all that. But after that, they were all so animated and they were so excited. So it was, and many of them didn't follow the rules because it was hard for me to monitor. So I really want to ask Bill what techniques he uses, because even though I explained the rules, it's kind of hard to get it the first time. So some of them didn't understand, or they were breaking the rules, and it was hard to monitor. But I think one of the students, I asked them, you know, what was the experience like? And then one guy, he raised his hand and he said, ma'am, this is the first time in my life where I spoke and nobody interrupted me or gave me advice. And it was just amazing.
So you're feeling pretty excited that you were able to hold an empathy circle with your class. And it was in person too, because of COVID, that you weren't able to do courses, do it in person. And You had some challenges that not everybody followed the rules. And then you're kind of wondering, well, how do I get them to follow the process? But then you did get some really good feedback from someone who just really appreciated it, felt that they were the first time they could really speak without being given advice or interrupted.
And I found one more funny thing, that when I asked them to just talk about, I gave them a topic, like I gave them a topic or failure. You can talk about failure, or you can talk about whatever's alive in you. And I found some of the students preparing themselves to talk, like as if they were giving a speech, and they were like, okay, let me think, let me take some time to think. And they were taking time to think, and then they were giving this speech about failure is this and failure is that. And it wasn't really coming from something inside of them or their experience, but it was just something prepared, because they are trained, in the education system to be perfect, to win something, and so to get across this idea that no, it's not a competition, it's not something where you will be judged, it's just for you to share what's inside you. I don't know how to get that across.
So these students, they were trying to prepare to give sort of a speech, and instead of just speaking from the heart or just speaking naturally, and you're wondering how do you get the students just to sort of speak, authentically versus in this very prepared, maybe structured sort of a way. I think that was the time too, you didn't see. So did you feel heard?
Yes, thank you, Edwin.
Thanks. Okay, Ben, can I speak to you?
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm very excited about all the teachers here, that I just see the potential, for this practice in schools. I think it can be very beneficial. So especially Carla with, middle schoolers, I would just love to see the practice in these schools.
Okay, so you're very encouraged, you're excited, you're very happy to see that there are teachers here, because you felt all along that the empathy circle process would work very well in an educational situation.
And I know, with my nephew, I don't have children, but I've done empathy circles with my nephews and nieces who are like as young as 5 and 6 years old, and they're able to do it. So I know that young kids can already start using this practice.
Yeah, so you worked with one of your nephews, or maybe one or maybe other family members, and you're very pleased with how they've taken to it. So that's another whole dimension from which or into which this can move.
Yeah, and a strategy for like Priyanka or any school is to maybe start with a small group to teach them how the process works, so that they can be facilitators in the breakout rooms, because not even with college students or children, but even adults, you explain how it works. You say go into the circles, and then people will not really understand how to do the active listening. So it's good to teach a small group how to facilitate so that they really understand it, and then have them be facilitators in the group and have it sort of spread. So once people have done it 2 or 3 times, then they know how to do it. But you have to get that initial, understanding out there.
Okay, so you've discovered a method for introducing this into an educational system, and that is to start with a small group and work with them until they do understand it and can practice it and can teach it to others in a way. And you're confident or you already know that that works.
And they just need to do it once or so, and then they know how to do it, because otherwise, if you just tell people or students or whoever to go do this, they'll just start talking. They won't do the turn taking. They won't know how to pause. They won't know how to do the reflections. They have to sort of have to sort of prepare them, but it doesn't take a lot, really.
Okay, so I'm a little bit lost here. It seems like you were telling me the same thing, that they need to, but it doesn't take a lot of time and effort once they get it, and they can get it soon. But if you try to expose everyone to it, then they get lost. They don't know. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you sort of scale up, right? Teach a small group, then they teach some others, and then get the whole school kind of doing it. But it's good to kind of do it sort of stepwise.
Yeah, so you realize it's better to start small, then go up another increment, then another, and so on.
Yeah, and I would love to see a whole school learn the practice. And then, because the empathy circle is not only for just being heard and understood, but it's the foundation of restorative justice. If you can get the students to empathize with each other, that's kind of the essence of, working out problems. And so I think it's like perfect for preparation for doing restorative justice.
Yeah, so you're really, I mean, this is a profound movement that you're talking about into restorative justice. I don't remember anything else you said about.
Yeah, that's the essence. And the thing is, the restorative justice I've seen, it tends to be with talking sticks. So you have a group and they have a talking stick and it goes around. With this, you can do something similar, but with the empathic listening. It works I think it works even better than the talking stick restorative justice, because it's a practice that they can take it out to the playground and have like, hey, there's something comes up. Let's have an empathy circle. And so they facilitate their own empathy circle and they're practicing and learning it. So I think it really will improve restorative justice practice over just the talking stick method.
Yeah, so you were mainly talking here about the value of empathic listening, and how that particular value is appreciated on many levels, in many ways, in many different situations.
Yeah, that's close enough. I feel fully heard. That was my time. Yeah.
Oh, good. So now I'm the one that talks.
Yeah, you just select your listener.
Oh, good.
And maybe Carla, since Carla hasn't listened yet.
Okay, Carla, would you be my listener?
I will.
Okay, I had some misgivings coming here today. I definitely wanted to come. I seem to have a problem with memory deficit. I'm already 73 years old, and so that's my biggest challenge with empathy circles. But I didn't do all that bad with Edwin, so that's encouraging.
Okay. Ben, you came this morning with some concerns regarding some issues that you might have with your listening deficits. And there seems like there may be some encouragement because you feel that you did really well with Edwin.
Excellent. Let me see what else. Well, I feel like the empathy circle process is going to grow because it's so self-evidently worthwhile. Because I think one of the topics was, how do we make this grow? Just keep doing it. It will grow.
Okay. So this process of empathy circle seems easy enough, simple enough for it to take on and to grow, to spread.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then one thing that I wanted to talk to Edwin or Bill about, this might be premature, but speaking in short spurts, like 20 seconds at a time or so. I was wondering, you know, I would like to try someday for someone to speak about an idea for the whole 5 minutes and then reflect back. I don't know, but that may be something that's already been tried.
Okay. So coming into the possibility of catering the needs of the speaker, maybe to speak for a longer period of time, and then to have the listener reflect on that.
Yeah.
In comparison to the shorter spurts of time that some speakers have initialized.
Yeah, of course, I have I have no business making that suggestion because this is my second empathy circle. So I need to learn it first before I, never mind, go ahead.
Okay. So you're feeling that maybe your suggestions, that you shouldn't make the suggestion because this is all new to you right now.
Yes, and I'm looking forward very much to learning more and more about about empathy circles, eventually being able to host them.
Okay. So looking forward to moving into a hosting position and maybe becoming the leader of a empathy circle in the future.
Excellent. Are we done?
You have more time, but you can end at any time.
I think we're done, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can just say, I feel fully heard. And that indicates that you're completely, and it's Carla's
I
turn.
feel fully, yes. I feel fully heard. Thank you, Carla.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So Carla, you're this next speaker, and pick a listener, and then the circle moves on.
I'm still speaking from the same topic.
Yeah, the same topic or whatever's on your mind. If you feel that you'd like to change topics, you're perfectly welcome to do that.
I would just, well, I think one of the things I would like to touch on is.
Okay, but pick a listener first. So that.
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll go with Edwin.
Okay, listening.
Okay. Yes, got to sit up for it. I feel, I really feel encouraged coming here today based upon what I've listened to and been able to reflect on, especially as it relates to something that Edwin mentioned about empathy circles tying in with restorative justice practices. Restorative justice is an approach where I'm not going to say allowed, but the opportunity and space is provided for someone who feels that they have been harmed to have someone to listen to them in a space and place where there is no judgment, that they can speak freely. And then also it is a space for the person who has done the harm to come in and be able to speak. And out of that listening, it has been so imperative for both parties.
Can I reflect back what I'm hearing so far?
Yes.
So you're glad you came and you're explaining how restorative justice works, that it's about the ability for people to hear each other, addressing harm, and you're sort of explaining how restorative justice works.
Yes. And in the past year, I've been doing restorative justice for quite some time, for several years, but in this past year, what I have really noticed is that many students across the board, and specifically for me, K through 8, is the lack of empathy.
So you've been doing this work on restorative justice quite a while, and really what you're seeing that with the students, there's kind of this lack of empathy, and it sounds like that's a real concern.
Yes, and so it has been a concern because seeing the prevalence of the lack of empathy, but then also the next step is how to teach empathy, which is very difficult. And so I'm really, I cannot tell you how excited I am about finding this space and learning how to do that, and to be able to start in what you mentioned earlier, that small group.
So you're feeling concerned about the lack of empathy, and you're wondering how you can teach it. And just seeing this empathy circle practice, you're feeling some excitement about being able to use this and starting small and kind of building.
Yes. And the key is small groups. Another key is we often hear negative peer pressure, but having that positive peer pressure to have peers come in, especially with my middle schoolers where they see adults always as that authoritative figure. And so to have their peers being trained in this, I think will have a greater impact.
So there's this difference between the adults and the students. They see this hierarchy, and that the students can do this together with each other, you think would be positive, because it'd be sort of a peer-to-peer process.
I do. I also believe that with the small group having this pebble effect and going out into the schools, it offers the opportunity for all students to participate, regardless of grade, academic level, and hopefully even those that have been kind of socially withdrawn.
Yeah, so you're seeing how this can be really brought for all the students can use this. So the ones that are withdrawn or what their grades are, it doesn't matter, that everyone can take part in this.
Yeah.
It has a sense of equality to it, or inclusion.
It does. It has a great sense of equality. It also levels the playing field, so all players can participate. The easiness of it will allow for it to be done anywhere, anywhere and everywhere. I think on the school campus, just coming together and forming a group. I have space to provide for an empathy circle, but just like with my restorative justice circles, community circles, I've seen them out on the playground, in the hallway, just finding that quiet space to be together, or the space to be together. Yes.
Yeah, so you're envisioning setting up these spaces where students could do this together, and so it sounds like you're starting to plan or thinking how to implement it.
Yeah, I am thinking already, and I know outside of the students, my second biggest hurdle sometimes are my parents, and I think that so many of the empathy circles can be done with parent to parent, parent with administration, parent with child or with their student.
So you're saying that this could be implemented with between the parents and the administrator, teachers. So you're just seeing the universality of the application of it. That was also the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been fully heard.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll speak to Bill.
Listening?
Yeah, I just so excited about Carla being here, because I think this fits so well in the school, and having a program already in place and sort of building on that program. It's really, really exciting.
So you were inspired what Carla said, talking about, because you think it fits really well in the schools, starting small and building on it is just a really excellent model, and would have profound effect.
And you and I are here to support Carla too. Like if you want some support, kind of to meet, we're here to really spread this practice, and we're here to kind of support any efforts to bring it into a school, and excited to do so.
Yeah, so you want to also offer Carla support from both you and I, that we're here to support whatever she'd like to do in any kind of way, because we're as excited about it in the schools as she is. And
yeah, and there's one thing I think we have a practice which I can send links to. This is the empathy circle. We have something called restorative empathy circles, which takes it, sort of adds on this foundation. This is sort of like a foundational practice, but you can keep adding other tools around it. And we have more tools for dealing with more serious conflict. So like restorative justice, where there's some more practices and tools for for that. So we can always share those too.
Right. And in addition to this basic practice that we're doing today, you're also indicating that there's, restorative circles, which basically breaks down the process, takes a little bit of a deeper dive into where the participants are coming from, and then tries to, help them understand the process.
And the thing, we also have the framing around, let's create a culture of empathy versus justice per se. Because if you want to do an empathy circle in your family, you say, we want to do a family empathy circle to create more connection and love and care in the family. And it's, if you say we want to have a restorative justice circle in the family, justice has the feeling like there's something, a problem, right? There's something, and it's a bit anxiety producing. But if you say we just want to create deeper connection, you sort of set the framework, a positive container and framework, and then you kind of create that environment like in a family. And then if a conflict happens, you restore empathic connection. So there's sort of a little, I think, some philosophical concepts that are actually helping that it can be very helpful in sort of spreading the practice.
Yeah, so you want to make the point that there's a bit of a distinction between like restorative justice, and justice implies punishment and reward, as opposed to an empathy circle. And you're saying that if, and for people who are just introduced to the process, if you say justice, they feel that they might be judged, but that's not what happens in an empathy circle. And so that creates a feeling of acceptance and community. And so then you start with that. And then if there's a problem, people have a foundation or an experiential, experience, sorry, repeating myself there, in order to, let's get back to that. And they have an experience of what that is, so you know where you're taking them.
Yeah, so you can start the circle on a positive topic, like what is something that's happened positive for you in your life in the last couple of months? What's something that's really you're excited about and positive? So the circle is a discussion about a positive topic. And it's like, hey, I get to share something about my life, and you create a connection and you learn the practice. And then when a conflict comes, you've already got the foundation and the tools and the practice to start addressing those, issues that come up, or any sort of conflicts or harm that's been done can be kind of worked through. And you've got the foundation tools already in place.
Yeah, so you wanted to talk about, so to basically help lower people's defense mechanisms, you start with something positive. So you have people sharing something positive, they're being reflected. There's then that sense of connection and community, which again forms a firm foundation. So if there are problems, you have that connection and that support to kind of be a referent and to come back to, and that's what you're trying to restore.
Yeah, and then there's different directions you can go with the empathy. Is one is just people connecting. I'll stop there since that was the time.
There's more to come. There's much more to come.
More to come. I got tons to say. Excited. Okay, I feel fully heard.
Okay, all right. I know I talked to you last time, Priyanka, but you haven't talked in a while, so I want to get you in. So, you ready? Okay, great. Yeah, so starting in small groups, I think Edwin's suggestion is an excellent idea. But coming from a classroom situation, like if you're a counselor, you may have that time, but as a classroom teacher, you may not have that time. Or if you did a pullout group, the rest of the class essentially can go wild. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, so you think Edwin's idea is excellent, but a classroom situation is a little different. It can get really wild.
Right, because, yeah. And so one way to address that problem is to just start with listening. So you just listen. So you role model it, you listen to the kids and you reflect them without judgment. And then you do that with several students. And so they're getting that first step that's experiential. You're also again, reducing their emotional defense mechanisms because they're being listened to without judgment. I'll stop there.
Yeah, so one of the ways to start is to listen
Right, to
by
listen.
reflecting without judgment, and that lowers to listen, yeah,
I'm
without
sorry,
judgment.
you
And
froze for
so
a second. I thought you were finished. Like, go finish.
yeah, to listen. Am I still frozen?
Yeah,
You know?
a couple of times, but I think you're okay now. We'll just move.
You may want to turn your video off. That might be an
Yeah.
issue. That'll give you more bandwidth. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so I heard you say, Bill, that but we can start off in a classroom situation by role modeling what we want, like by role modeling empathy, that is reflecting back to the kids without judging, and that lowers their defense mechanism.
Right. And it also, yeah, it role models a thing. The other way is that and one of the points that I make, I have a document, but is that oral language, when we analyze oral language, that's the same thing that schools want us to do when we're reading or writing. I'll stop there.
So when we analyze oral language, it's the same things schools want us to do when we're reading or writing.
Right. So you can actually teach the skills of the empathy circle in an already existing literature class. This is great appropriate because you can use any book from kindergartner to college, and then instead of reflecting the another person, you can reflect the character or the author.
Yeah, and this is great. You can do this in a great appropriate way from kindergarten to college by taking books, literature books, and then have them reflecting back and empathizing with the characters in the books.
Right. And then you can build on that. You can build on those basic understandings. Once they learn how to reflect without judgment, that's the tricky part. Then it's a very easy step to, form circles.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. And once they learn how to reflect back without judgment, then we can form circles.
Right. And if this is instituted in schools, I again worked. I would say, I would predict, this is an educated guess, a hypothesis, going back to my high school vocabulary, that you would see and you could measure a reduction in discipline referrals by about 30%.
So it's your hypothesis that if this is done in schools, that it would reduce, ill discipline or disciplinary issues by 30%.
Yes. Thank you, Priyanka. I feel fully heard.
Thank you, Bill. Ben, would you be willing to listen to me?
Please go right ahead.
So I'm so glad I'm here today because of all these ideas around education and seeing our fellow educators here and getting so many ideas.
You're really glad here. You're really glad you're here because you also are very much interested in education, and you're just pleased everyone's talking about that in different ways.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a gift that I have the attention of my students for so many hours that I do, because attention is the biggest currency now. It's even worth more than money.
Yeah, so you're realizing that the attention that you're getting from your students is actually a gift of great value.
Yeah, and even though sometimes they don't want to be in the class, but I still feel that I have this unique opportunity that many people don't get to influence so many people.
Wow, so you're really appreciating how wonderful it is that you're in relationship with these students in ways that that are really important and profound.
Yes, and the topic we started with is how can we spread a culture of empathy? In my life, how I can do that best is to pass on this, what I've learned from, Edwin and everybody here in these circles, to pass that on to my students.
Okay, so now you're thinking in terms of how to pass this, what you've been learning onto your students. I don't know if that covers everything you said.
Yes. And learning about, so I was really nervous, Edwin, I have to tell, I was really nervous because I thought we have to follow this circle very strictly. And I had changed it a little bit in the classroom scenario. So I was very nervous about whether I was doing the right thing or the wrong thing. And now I feel very comforted hearing that it is a challenge in the classroom, and that that I can change it a little bit.
Okay, so you were concerned that you had modified it to adapt it to the situation you're in with your students, and you weren't sure if you were permitted to do that. So you were concerned, but now you feel encouraged and relaxed that indeed it is appropriate to do that on occasion.
Yeah, and after hearing Bill speak about how we can start off by modeling it ourselves, was good to know. I will try to do more of that in the upcoming sessions. And also I'm thinking about selecting a few students and training them to be facilitators, so that so that they can be, so that it can run better, like from Edwin's idea earlier.
Okay, I think you were saying something about modeling. I'm not sure, but you say again?
So I was thinking about how I can do a better job of modeling the behavior by reflecting back what my students say without judging them.
Yes.
Like what Bill said. And then the second idea I got was from Edwin, like picking few students out and training them to be facilitators.
Okay, so yes, you're valuing the idea and looking forward to using it where it's not an empathy circle per se, but students will say something and you reflect it back before you even answer. And then the other thing is to pull some students out, just a very small group, and basically do empathy circle in front of the group, I think is what you meant.
No,
So-
not in front of the group, but
Oh.
to train them to be facilitators, so
Okay.
that they can go into the groups and like the circle would run better, like the empathy circle would run better when I have them in the class.
Okay, yeah, so you want to train some empathy circle facilitators.
Right.
Okay.
And I don't know, I would like to brainstorm with Edwin and Bill about what other things I can do, because my situation is unique. I'm not a school teacher, but I teach in higher education, and I have all the liberty being a professor, but to run the class, I still have to stick to a curriculum. So I teach business communication. So maybe brainstorm some ideas about how I can include more empathy in my curriculum.
Okay, so you're looking forward to discovering different ways in which you'll be able to incorporate empathy in your classrooms and with your students.
And that was the time you might not have seen it, but Bill held it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. You feel well, you feel heard?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. So what's next?
Ben, it's your turn to speak. Pick a listener and
Okay, I'll pick Edwin, if you're up
Yep,
for it.
listening. Yep, listening.
Yeah, so I mean, this, I'm extremely happy that I'm here. I'm learning a lot. I always do when I come to these events.
Yeah, you're glad you're here because you're learning a lot, and you found that you do learn a lot when you come to these different events.
Both Michael and I are very interested in how we can incorporate empathy circles and or the principles of empathy circles in the Prosperous classes and the Prosperous activities.
You and Michael are looking at how to implement this practice in your Prosperos community group.
Yes. I don't know where I want it to go beyond that. I mean, my mind right now is just like contemplating the ideas that I've been exposed to here. And one of which is the possibility of not only doing empathy circles, but in a regular situation where, let's say I am the teacher and then I have maybe 20 students, to do what we were recently talking about, is we're not doing an empathy circle per se, but you know, I use an empathy circle principle by reflecting back to students something that they've said.
So you're looking at ways of implementing this, and you're seeing that as a teacher, you could use reflective listening with the students. They say something and you reflect back what they're saying.
Yes, and it's just now occurred to me that I need to revamp my intentions for coming here and my objectives, and that I would be much better off if I would just let go of those ideas and intentions and simply, for the next few months, simply enjoy learning empathy circle activity and enjoying and benefiting from empathy circles.
So instead of thinking of how you're going to implement it and change it or modify it, you're thinking just take part, enjoy the process, and not have those, put your focus on those other implementation of it.
Yes, exactly. And I feel heard.
Okay, great. Then I'll speak to Carla. And you're muted.
We go.
Yeah. I'm just thinking that we could, Bill has a Thursday group, for education, and that maybe we could get more educators together to work on this, and then, for that mutual support. Like if there's a community of restorative justice, teachers, get them together and then work on how to, maybe implement empathy circles, just for that mutual support might be an idea.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that Bill has a group on Thursdays, and it seems like maybe you're doing some thinking into bringing more teachers into this group to strategize maybe how we can come up with ways of implementing the empathy circles, but if for nothing else, just to have that support that's needed for teachers.
So yeah, it's important to have that support, to kind of share ideas and, challenges that are happening, and to sort of think about how to implement the empathy circles in the schools.
So teachers coming together to share, having that tool of using empathy circles throughout maybe in their classrooms or outside of the classrooms, just in their daily work day.
Yeah, it's that quality of support, right? It's like students need personal support, just to have sent a feeling of connection, that they're not alone. Teachers need that support. I'm sure the administrators need that support. The parents need the support. It's like just having a constructive way to dialogue and get personal support is important for everyone.
Yes. So using this process of empathy circles throughout it seems like just, again, that pebble effect, looking at the dynamics can change. So again, it can be teacher to teacher, teacher to staff, student to teacher. There's so many different levels that need support, and this could be.
So there's the importance of empathy for personal support, which is it's well documented. It's used in therapy. Therapy is pretty much doing empathy. The therapist, counselor, listening. Their school counselors are listening to the students, or just listening to people, and it's just that healing quality of just being heard. So that's one benefit, and the empathy circle helps with that sort of peer listening. And then it also heads off conflict. So if, before restorative justice, you're sort of waiting for the conflict to happen, then you bring people, the disputants together in a dialogue. But with an empathy circle, you've got sort of the tools to head off those conflicts often before they really escalate.
So in using the empathy circle, it's kind of as a beginning step. That can be taught, implemented throughout. And so then when that harm and conflict issues and concerns come up, those that have participated and are using it have those tools. But also it kind of keeps away those issues as well.
It can head them off. So that's it. The sort of just personal support, heading off conflict. And when conflict happens, you've got the tools in place for using the empathy circle and, other practices on top of that. That's another sort of a category. And then there's a process called human-centered design, which a lot of schools are now using to more of a project-oriented teaching. And that process starts with empathy as the first step. So it can be sort of the gateway. The practice here is the gateway for learning that whole human-centered design process.
It seems as if the empathy is the core of all of these different ways of addressing, from personal support to mutual support to school support to community support. So getting that foundational core first will allow those that participate to move out into those other issues.
And that last one was design, which is the idea with the design community. It's really big here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Technology companies use human-centered design. There's at least 35, 40 schools that are sort of have that as a foundational practice. And it's basically saying anything you design, when you design anything, you need to first empathize with the people you're designing for. So if you're designing, a classroom, if you're designing a product or a service, you need to empathize with the people you're designing for to design a better product. And then again, that's another benefit or use of the empathy. And the empathy circle is a good way to learn that sort of that empathic mindset.
So it seems as we're moving into empathy circles, the design of those are important, because we have to look at those that we are serving.
It's a little bit different. It's like human-centered design uses empathy in a design process for designing any product, service, or anything. So the empathy becomes sort of a foundation for human-centered design.
So again, we're going back to the empathy being the core.
Exactly. That's the essence of it. Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So it's your turn to speak again, Carla, and pick a listener.
Oh my goodness. Okay. See, Priyanka, would you like to listen?
Yes.
Okay. Gosh, I'm learning so much, and just to be in this space, I think I should play the lotto, because I've lucked out with having information presented from educators. And I think that's important in the sense because there's so many intricacies and nuances that only educators know of or know about.
So you feel very lucky to be in this group because there's so many intricacies and nuances that you're learning about that only educators know of.
Yes. So as I'm sitting here, I'm just thinking about automatically, I guess it's just educators, the way we plan, and we hear something and we think, oh, I can use it in this way. But I'm really excited about starting with the small group and moving along with small groups throughout the school and adding to those small groups to kind of infiltrate the school.
So you're really excited about infiltrating the school with small groups and spreading this idea of empathy that way.
Mm-hmm. And then really last for me is, again, using this as a tool in restorative justice to reemphasize that empathy is a really huge component that's missing. And there was a level of frustration that I had this year because I didn't know how to teach that, to teach empathy.
So you were frustrated this year because you didn't know how to teach empathy, and you want to ensure that that is a part of the restorative justice process.
Yes. And, you know, even, I don't know if teaching is the right word, but just bringing it into consciousness, awareness to the students was very hard to do. And I think by using and being trained in this here, that it will definitely benefit and allow me to bring it to students' awareness. Many of them, I think, have an idea of what empathy is, but they're not aware of how it connects to one another, how it's reciprocated.
So you want to learn what you're learning here and bring it to the students. Not teaching might not be the right word, but to bring it into awareness or consciousness of students. Many of them are aware of it, but they don't really know exactly how to relate with it.
Mm-hmm. And what I really love about this process is that it can be done in every classroom. It can be done at home. It can be done in their personal life. It's a life tool that one can have forever, personally, academically, and professionally.
So you really love this process because it's a life tool that can be done professionally, personally. It can be done in the classroom, at home.
Yes. And with that, I feel fully heard.
Thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
Bill, would you be willing to listen to me?
Be happy to.
I'm so excited because like my mind is just bursting with ideas about what I can do. And like Carla said, you know, as educators, our mind is just running all the time and planning about what we can do in the classroom. And I did an exercise in the class where I didn't tell the students what empathy is at the beginning. I asked them what they think empathy is. And the number one answer that I got was to advise somebody when they're in trouble.
So you're very excited about being here and also talking with other educators because you can really kind of, the wheels are turning and you can figure out various ways to implement this sort of thing, the empathy circle. And one of the things that you did with the kids is ask them what they thought empathy was. And what they thought was empathy was to give advice.
And then one girl kept saying, it's to care about someone, it's to care about someone. So then I asked her, but how would you show that care? And she said, and she didn't know how to answer that.
Yeah, and one student, a girl, not surprising, sorry, I broke the rules there, said to care about someone. And and then she said, well, how do you show that? And that was a stumped her. Excuse me.
Yeah, she just kept saying, but it's just to care, empathy is just to care. But I said, yes, but how will you show it? And she didn't know, she couldn't answer that. So, and then one student said, it is to feel the feelings of others. And another student said, it is to show sympathy. And so but many of them got it, that it was to, many of them also answered that it is to understand another person, understand what another person is going through.
Right. So another student said it's to feel what another person is feeling, and another person said is to sympathize with what somebody's saying. And then finally, the class came to the understanding that it's to understand what another person is feeling.
Yeah. So whatever was not empathy, I put it on the left side, and whatever answers were empathy, I put it on the right side. And then they were really surprised that empathy is not advising, that it's not showing sympathy, it's not consoling someone. They were really surprised that that's not empathy.
Right. So you did a little activity there, and then you had two lists. One was what empathy is not, and one what empathy is. And what was not was, giving advice or sympathizing. And so it really surprised people because they had, or the students, because they had a lot of misconceptions.
Yeah, and I can relate that to my own experience when I first learned about what empathy is, because I thought the same things before. Like I also thought that empathy is advising, being there for someone, consoling. So it's really shocking how little we know about the general population, how little we know about empathy.
Yeah, and you could relate to your own experience where you had the same misconceptions earlier when you were introduced to empathy, and you're seeing how these misconceptions are generally accepted in the wide society. So it's important to really help people to understand what empathy is.
Yeah, and I think the empathy circles, it's not just theoretical, it's not just giving lip service like many people tell us. In the business world, there's always this talk of, oh, active listening. It's like this keyword everybody likes to talk about, but really nobody teaches us how to do it practically.
Right. So you're making a distinction between didactic learning or a classic lecture, here is what the intellectual information is, rather than experiential learning. And that's what's important in the empathy circle. And in the business world, there's people talk about active listening, but there's very little experiential thing about it. It's kind of a buzzword, and people are supposed to know what it means.
And people think it's easy. Oh, I just listened to someone and it's so easy. But later when they actually did the circle, I asked the students, how difficult was it to listen? And they shared how difficult it actually was. And they said, ma'am, it's so difficult to listen because I have all these thoughts inside my head and I can't focus.
Right. So, and originally they think, oh, reflective listening is easy. That's what the students thought, and many people think. And but then after the listening with the empathy circle practice, they found out how difficult it is and how they had to kind of retrain themselves to reflect, not respond.
Yeah. And later they shared with me that
ma'am, when we heard the instructions from you, we thought these instructions are simple and it's easy to do, but actually the practice of listening over a period of, it was just a circle for 1 hour, but they were exhausted at the end of the hour because they just don't have the practice of listening. They're not practiced in listening that way.
Right. So it was simple. They thought it was very simple and no problem. But after the hour, they were kind of exhausted because they realized that this was something new, something that they had to really kind of pay attention to.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you, Bill. I feel fully heard.
Okay. All right. Ben, would you listen to me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So I'm going to put in, this is a Google Doc that that people can share. I'll stop there.
Okay, so you've given us a Google Doc and we can share it.
Right. And so to outline what the Google Doc does is that it outlines research and why social emotional development is important in schools. And then it shows the institutional support for that. I'll stop there.
Okay, well, I'm not familiar with the terminology you're using, and so it evaporates from my mind.
Sure. So social emotional learning is an important goal in schools. And so what the document shows is the research and then how the California Department of Education has adopted that research.
Yes, so the Google Doc is going to talk about the research itself and how it's being adopted.
Right. And then the second part is how oral language development corresponds to reading and writing development. And there's research, and then there's the Massachusetts Department of Education accepting that definition.
Okay, so there's some exploration regarding the relationship between oral language and writing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was some something to do with an organization that is involved with that.
Right, the Massachusetts Department of Education.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the third part of that is that where the empathy circle, why use the empathy circle to do this?
Okay, and so then the question arises, why use the empathy circle to do this?
Right, and then I give some rationale there. So that gives you a firm research-based foundation, and then possible, and why empathy circles, would be an effective use to achieve those goals. I'll stop there.
Okay, so you're going to have some research-based suggestions or philosophy, and then what? And then what?
And then a rationale why to use empathy circles.
Oh yes, yeah, and then the rationale, how to use it, why use it, and how to use it, right?
Right. Yeah. That document won't tell you how to use it, but I've got like Elizabeth Warren, I've got a plan for that.
Okay. So yeah. All right. Okay. So you have a plan for that.
Right. And I'm just really, my heart is full to see people. I don't know whether you'll use it or not or whatever, but obviously, if you have empathy circles wherever you are, and I'm doing empathy circles, the world will be a better place. And then I'm done.
Well, your heart is full, and you feel, I could see that you feel joy about this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's something that you've longed for, and you're seeing it blossoming now.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Ben. I feel fully heard.
Thank you. Well, Bill, would you do the honor?
Uh-huh.
Yes. Well, I'm a bit at a loss about what to say. My preconceived notions about all this have dissolved.
So you're a bit of a loss of what to say because your preconceived notions about this sort of have dissolved.
Yes. Yeah, because I mean, it was the school that I teach for. It's a metaphysical school. It was that school that led me to Empathy Circles. I gave a lecture on Bohm dialogues, and Michael Zonta said that he found that the Empathy Circles enabled the deep listening that Bohm dialogues require.
So you were giving a lecture on Bohm dialogues?
Bohm dialogue, yeah.
Yeah. And so you had spoke to Mike Santa about that, and this is on a metaphysical basis. That's where you're teaching, and you were, and I guess Mike reflected how the empathy circle practice then supports that Bohm dialogue.
Yeah,
got that right. There's few things that are new to me, so correct me.
Yeah. Well, Bohm dialogue is based on the work of David Bohm. He is he's a Nobel Prize winning physicist who branched out into an inquiry and development of dialogue with Krishnamurti.
So David Bohm, this Bohm dialogue is based upon something he developed. This guy, David Bohm, was a Nobel laureate, and he developed this with in conversation with Krishnamurti.
Yes. Yeah, so that's why I'm here. So anyway, it seems to me that the best way for me to proceed is to find a way of explaining what happens when they come to a group like this that would be interesting to them, and to just recommend that they come to a Empathy Circle Cafe or any other beginning. I guess that's where you begin. The cafe is where you begin, and let them learn it directly firsthand.
So you're looking for a way to present this so that it would be interesting to your prospective students. And so what you've come to is that you would just suggest that they come to one of these empathy cafes, which is sort of the beginning part, and then allow themselves to experience this, and then understand it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of good will come from that.
And you think that would be a lot of good would come from that?
Yes, thank you, Bill. I feel well heard.
Okay. And Edwin, I saw the 10 minutes.
Yeah, that was the time. So I'm going to hit the close all rooms. So
okay.
There we go. Close all breakout rooms. So we'll kind of go and do a debrief. Yeah, thanks everyone. Really pleasure meeting you, Ben and Carla, in this group. I know Priyanka very well, so but great to meet new people.
Thank you.
Same here.
And Anna got kicked out, and then she came back in. I tried to put her back in. I don't know what happened to her.
Yeah, she always has really bad connection, so she kind of drops out. It's just she's in a rural area, so it always kind of struggles. Was that your hand up, Carla, or
no? That was just
a clap.
A clap to everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, we have about 18 seconds. Everybody will be coming back. They don't want to leave their groups. Yeah, Ben, in terms of the cafes, you can hold cafes with a large group and then divide into smaller groups. I think that's what Mike had done too.
Yeah, that's what Mike intended to do, but he ended up simply running the program with all 15 people in the room, which was fine. Everyone got to observe everyone else doing it, but it wasn't as intensive as if you had
Oh,
breakout.
right. Yeah. Smaller groups is better. It's
Yeah.
usually 4. So welcome back, everyone. So we want to go around and just share. Let me actually post the question. Well, the question is what will you be doing over the next couple of weeks or to build the empathy movement? And I don't know who would like to go first. Well, I guess I'll go and model it. Yeah, I spend all my time, trying to build the empathy movement, doing interviews, holding these groups, developing training. We're developing more training. So working at it, in as many different ways as I can, and to bring people together just to dialogue and to practice empathy. And so with that, I don't know, Kathy, do you want to go next and then just call on everyone to make sure everyone gets heard?
Sure. So I think how I'm building it is being here and being the best person I can be in my circles, because I want people to come back. So it's important to take care of what you've got, right? And then from there, that builds. So I think that's how I'm building. Carla, would you like to go next?
Yes, okay. We talked a lot about, I felt very fortunate in my group because there are those that kind of understand it from an educational perspective, which was my goal, one of my goals in coming here, but it has far exceeded my expectations. But with that, creating the empathy circles in small groups at a personal level, moving them out into classrooms, into the community. And then those small groups have a special dynamic because it might entail having teacher to teacher, teacher to student, community, bringing in admin. And then I'm also thinking, I just moved into a district position. So I would love to see this as I progress, eventually move into our district. And then also pairing it with restorative justice practices. Really quickly, I noticed last year, especially our kids had a lack of empathy, probably not really understanding what it is, thinking that it's sympathy. So I kind of start with what empathy is not. And just really excited to start some planning and making some calls to certain people. Thank you. And I will pass it on to.
Oh, I'll call
You'll
him.
pass it on? Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Melanie, do you want to take about 30 seconds to?
I'm having a plumbing emergency right now, so I'll be back, but I can't do it right now.
Okay, Valerie.
And so, yeah, it was a great session. And what I'm going to be doing to work on empathy is a class project in a university class, philosophy on emotions. And my term project is on empathy with a focus on interpersonal relationships, and also designing or proposing potential research on how to get more in touch with our emotions. So that's pretty much taking up all my time and coming to these empathy circles and practicing empathy in ways that I didn't actually expect to be practicing in my everyday relationships, and sort of being always aware of like just all the awareness that I have developed as being part of these empathy circles, and like really have completely embodied it, because it really is just so truly who I am, and it's amazing. And so sometimes translating that in a world where we're not practicing empathy much takes a little bit of adjusting.
Yeah,
so
thank you, Valerie.
Thank you.
Gianna, 30 seconds.
I'm happy to be here in Empathy Circles. In terms of building, I would really like to combine 16 guidelines with Empathy Circles. And I'm thinking about where I could offer that and how I can offer that. And I hope to join cohort 12E.
Great, thank you. Priyanka? You're muted. having trouble hearing you,
With
Priyanka.
the ed group, I learned so much, and I have the schedule that matches. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're coming. Thank you, Priyanka. Jen M.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just keep going to empathy circles. I want to continue to attend them, and I want to continue working to bring them to my organization. I'm gonna start by having an empathy circle or inviting people who work for my organization to come to one. I haven't done that yet, so I'm excited for that, and I'm gonna continue working to get it into the schools here in San Mateo County and San Francisco County.
Great. Thank you, Jen. Ben, do you want to take about 30 seconds and share how you want to spread empathy?
Sure. Well, what's become clear to me today is what I'm going to be doing is inviting members of the teaching staff for the Prosperos to simply come and take and do the empathy circles, and you know, there'll be discussions around that, but that's my main objective.
Thank you. Angela?
So I'm just going to reflect on what empathy is and whether or not I come to another one of these circles, or how is it going to, what does it have to do with the path that I'm creating for myself?
Great, thank you. Jen?
Yeah. So I think I'm honing in on where I need to advance myself. I will continue to promote this group, and bummed that people didn't come that were going to come, but that's okay. And I just really value this so much. It is just such a gift, and I appreciate what everyone's doing here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Larry?
I'm going to continue to participate in empathy circles, and I'm going to use a very quick quote from Gandhi. I think or just maybe follow Gandhi's suggestion and be the empathy that I would like to see in other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Bill?
So I'm going to be participating in empathy circles. I'm also going to be working on, creating the next cohort, and try to, help anybody who wants to get it into schools. I put something in the chat that gives my contact information. You can either come on Thursdays or just email me if you need a little help. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Melody's not back yet. She was the last one to go. So I'll turn it back over to you, Edwin.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. So I had posted in the chat the feedback form. So if you can go through there and click on that feedback form, especially for the people who are new. If you fill that out, you can give feedback about today's session, and you can put your email in there, and then we can add your email to our email list. So the email list, we send out regular announcements for all the different cafes and the different events. So you'll want to get to that. And I see Melanie's back. Did you want to do your checkout? You're muted.
Okay,
There you
yeah,
go.
I'm having some kind of plumbing emergency, so when my toilet was overflowing.
Oh, no.
Anyway, so I'll just check out quickly. I enjoyed the circle. I appreciate the connection, and thanks for having these groups, Edwin. And let's see, Valerie offered to hang out with me for a while. I don't know how to set that up here.
Probably
Okay.
post your Zoom room, or we can leave this open for a little bit afterwards.
Yeah, or I could post my phone number.
Oh, yeah,
the
in the chat
ancient
or
device.
email.
I'll just put my phone number in the
I have
chat.
a Zoom room. I have a Zoom room. I'll just put it in the chat.
Okay.
Cool. Great, yeah. So, and there was another link there to the to sign up. So the training is we mentioned is that it's that 5-week training. It'll be in this time slot in starting August 6th. So you can check that out, add your name. There's an application that you fill out and some steps to do to get on the cohort list. So we hope you'll do that. And especially to get the word out, if you want to help us get the word out about these intro cafes, there's a link there to LinkedIn. I don't know if anybody's on LinkedIn, but I'm going to show you this on how to help get the word out, because this is one of the best ways for us to get new people involved. Is you go to the LinkedIn, the event, Build the Empathy Movement, and there's the schedule there, the Mondays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. That's the Saturdays today. And these are the open intro cafes, so you can attend any of those. Just say that you're going. And if you want to help us out to invite people, you can see 785 people said they're interested. So not everybody shows up, but it kind of gets on your calendar, so it lets people know about it. So what you do is you go into the invite button here, and then you can say, you can go through and click on each one individually, but what's easier is you click on like the United States, show results, and then you just scroll down to the very bottom, and you can see I already invited a bunch, and then you just click it once here, and it'll select everyone. So you can see these are the people that weren't invited yet, and then you just click. But if you have a lot of friends, you scroll to the bottom, you might have several hundred or 1,000 people. You can invite up to 1,000 a week. And then next week, invite another 1,000, click on invite. And you'll see down here, it says invited to the event. So that's really a great way to, tell your friends about this event. That really helps us out to get the word out. This goes on, people who say that they're going to the event, it puts it on their LinkedIn page, and then their friends see it, and it kind of grows like that. So that would be a real help, and the link is there. And you can also save with Facebook, with Zoom. There's 3 buttons in the chat where you can save the chat. So there's a lot of different links here. You can save the chat if you want to save all those links, or just click on them, or copy and paste is another way to do it. So we're set. Anything else before we close that I forgot? Bill or Larry or anyone?
No, I just want to express my appreciation to all you empathy pioneers.
Yay. And Valerie's got something. Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure, Melanie, that you got the link for my Zoom account. Did you get the link for the Zoom?
Hey, you're muted, Melanie.
Did you put it in the chat room?
I did. It's in there.
Was it? Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
I see your email. I don't see a link.
Oh, it's the one right above. Zoom room password, or sorry, meeting ID with the last 1408 is the last digits. Do you not see it?
No.
Really?
You maybe just put it privately to someone.
There you go. All right. See it now.
Yeah, there I see it.
There you go. I see it now too.
Okay.
Thanks,
Well,
Jenna.
great. Then with that, we'd like to do our jazz hands goodbye. So see you next time. Look forward to it. It was a real pleasure meeting you all. So bye for now.
Bye.
We don't need to stay behind, do we, Edwin? Okay.
We're all set. I think there's no real.
Bye, everybody.
Okay.
Oh,
Bye
okay.
for now.